The arrival of Djawadi stars were quiet. Trade ships floated peacefully between systems. There hadn't been war in the central galaxies for many years. But that peace shattered when the Dreadfire appeared. The Dreadfire wasn't a normal ship. It was a massive black warship, shaped like a spear. Its surface pulsed with red energy. No one knew where it came from. It didn't send warnings. It didn't ask questions. It just attacked. The first victims were small colonies on the edge of the Van sector. The colonies vanished. When scouts were sent to investigate, they found nothing but burned rock and floating debris. No survivors, not even a distress signal, had escaped. Panic spread. The Galactic Council held emergency meetings. They sent ships to stop the Dreadfire, but none returned. Every fleet that went after it was destroyed within minutes. Recordings showed lasers cutting through the strongest shields. Entire ships vanished into glowing red beams. One captain's last words were, "It's not a ship, it's a god with engines." Council leaders couldn't agree on a plan. Some wanted to run, some wanted to hide behind moons. Others begged for help from stronger species. The truth was they were all afraid. On a small moon near the neutral zone, Captain Myra sat in a command center, watching the reports. She wasn't part of the council, she wasn't even a famous officer. But she had something the others didn't. Single quotes T-hope. Next to her stood a human named Dan. He wore a dark uniform with no medals. His expression was calm. Myra glanced at him. "Why are you so quiet?" she asked. Dan stared at the screen showing the Dreadfire moving through another system. "Because we've seen worse," he replied. Myra raised an eyebrow. "Worse than this?" Dan nodded. "Back on Earth, we called them planet killers. We learned that if something can bleed, it can be stopped." Myra didn't understand. Everyone else was afraid, running, giving up. But this man from Earth, he was planning something. "How would you stop it?" she asked. Don smiled. "We'll need a ship." Across the galaxy, leaders began preparing escape routes. Some started evacuating planets. A few species tried hiding in deep space. Fear ruled the stars. Civilizations that once ruled sectors now begged for time. But the Dreadfire kept moving forward, system by system. One young alien pilot recorded a short message before his ship was destroyed. "There's no stopping it. The Dreadfire is death itself." But Earth had not spoken yet. Back in Earth's orbit, a small fleet sat in silence. Unlike the colorful designs of alien ships, Earth's vessels were dark gray, heavy, and simple. But they were built for war. Inside the command ship, Dan stood in front of a team of officers. He pointed at a hologram of the Dreadfire. "This ship has weaknesses," he said. "It relies on fear. It expects surrender. We will give it neither." A young woman beside him, named Lena, frowned. "We are outnumbered, outgunned." Dan shook his head. "We're not here to match it. We're here to break it." The humans had one advantage. No one knew what Earth could do. The Council had always treated Earth like a small, wild world useful for resources, but too strange to trust. No one expected Earth to act. No one expected Earth to fight. But now, Earth was moving. Dan turned toward the stars. "Send the message," he ordered. "What message?" Lena asked. He replied, "Tell the galaxy, Earth is coming." Earth's message was clear. The message went out in all major languages. "This is Earth Command. We have observed the Dreadfire. We will not flee. We will not bow. We are coming." Across the galaxy, leaders gasped. Some laughed nervously. Others thought Earth had gone mad. The Council tried to ignore the message, calling it reckless, but fear was shifting. Not toward the Dreadfire, but toward what Earth might do. The Dreadfire, meanwhile, entered the Novalis system. For trade moons were destroyed in minutes. Refugee ships barely escaped. When the Council asked the Dreadfire's origin, they received a single, cold reply. "Cleansing, purification, the weak must burn." The ship's voice wasn't robotic. It sounded alive, ancient, angry. At Earth's command station, Dan reviewed the scans. He stood beside a massive table filled with weapon blueprints, maps, and enemy recordings. Lena walked in with a report. "Dreadfire just wiped out another system," she said quietly. Dan didn't look up. "It's following a pattern. It's searching for something or testing us. Dan nodded. "Like a predator before a real strike." Lena crossed her arms. "So, we attack first?" Dan shook his head. No, we bait it. 3 days later, Earth launched its operation. A single warship Eclipse 1 was sent forward. It looked small compared to the massive alien vessels that had already failed, but it wasn't size that mattered. It was what hid inside. Captain Moloch, a calm man with deep scars on his hands, led the mission. He had no fancy medals, just experience and quiet strength. His ship moved into the shadow of a dying star where the Dreadfire had been spotted. Status, he asked. Tracking hostile signal, the officer replied. It's coming straight for us. Perfect, Moloch whispered. The Dreadfire arrived like a storm. It didn't slow down, its weapons charged instantly. Red energy glowed across its hull. It sent a warning. Flee, submit, be cleansed. Moloch responded with a quiet laugh. Sorry, wrong target. He activated Earth's surprise, the Shadow Core. A sudden burst of dark energy surrounded Eclipse 1. The ship vanished for a moment, then reappeared behind the Dreadfire. Its weapons lit up, not with standard lasers, but with pure kinetic cannons, firing chunks of high-density metal at insane speeds. The first volley slammed into the Dreadfire's rear engines. The alien ship jolted, shields flickered. For the first time ever it took damage. In the council chambers, ambassadors stared at the live feed. Silence filled the room. An old counselor whispered, "It can be hurt," a younger one added, "by humans." Another leaned forward, "What kind of technology is that?" But Dan had warned them long ago. Earth had always kept secrets. Back on the battlefield, the Dreadfire twisted in the void. It turned, aiming massive cannons at Eclipse 1, but Earth's ship danced between blasts like a shadow, dodging fire that had melted planets before. Then it spoke. "You are not prey," Captain Moloch smirked. "Nope, we're predators." He ordered a second barrage. This time, the blast hit something deep within the Dreadfire. A strange crack opened along its side. Strange black mist poured out into space. The crew watched as the Dreadfire began to retreat for the first time. "It's running," someone said. "No," Moloch said. "It's thinking. Now we've got its attention." He sent one final message toward Earth. "Target damaged. Returning for next phase. Earth must lead now." In Earth's main bunker, Dan received the message. He placed both hands on the table and nodded. "Phase 2 begins." Lena looked uneasy. "We've heard it, but we haven't stopped it." Dan stared at the star map. "That ship was built to destroy civilizations. But we're not just another civilization, we're human." He paused, then added, "And now, it knows." What Earth had been hiding. News spread like wildfire. Every channel across the galaxy played the same clip, the Dreadfire taking damage for the first time. Messages flooded the council from thousands of species. Who are these humans? Where did that weapon come from? Can Earth really stop it? But no one outside Earth knew the truth. That wasn't even Earth's strongest ship. Back inside Earth's hidden command base, deep under the oceans of the Pacific, Dan walked into a massive room. The walls were lined with black screens, showing data and ship movement. In the center stood Project Orion, a long-forgotten emergency fleet, built for one purpose only, ending threats that could destroy all of humanity. Lena followed him in, still shocked. "We could have used these years ago." "Why hide them?" Dan looked at her seriously. "Because if the galaxy knew what we built, they'd fear us just as much as they fear the Dreadfire. But now..." He nodded. "Now is different. Now we show them what Earth really is." He walked over to a console and pressed his palm against a scanner. The floor rumbled. Giant steel doors opened slowly, revealing the Titan, a massive warship unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. It didn't shine. It didn't glow. It looked like a beast carved from mountains, with armor thick enough to survive a sun's blast and engines made to tear space itself. Titan wasn't just a ship. It was Earth's final word. Meanwhile, the Dreadfire had stopped moving. It hovered near the burned remains of the Novalis moons. Inside the ship, something ancient stirred. It wasn't built by any species known to the Council. In fact, it wasn't built at all. It was grown, born from a war that ended millions of years ago. It had no crew. It was alive. It remembered pain, defeat once, long ago. It had fought another being like itself, and lost. Now, as Earth's weapons hit its armor, that memory came back. Fear, something it hadn't felt in 1,000 lifetimes. It scanned human transmissions. Words filled its systems. Resistance, never surrender, we fight together. Dreadfire's response was simple. No threat identified, Earth must burn first. Titan launched 3 hours later. Its engines left deep scars in the sky as it flew up from Earth. It was followed by 4 more ships, all from Project Orion. Each one was different. One focused on stealth, another built to protect civilians, another made for close combat. Together, they formed a strike group Earth had kept secret for decades. Dan stood on the Titan's bridge. The walls were filled with screens, alerts, and glowing lights. Around him, every officer moved with purpose. No one panicked. They had trained for this. Status. Dan asked. Enemy ship remains idle, said the navigator. It's waiting. Then we won't. He opened a channel to the Council, the first in many weeks. This is Earth Command. We are moving. To end the threat, do not interfere, one of the Council leaders responded nervously. But what if it retaliates against the rest of us? Dan didn't flinch. Then stay out of our way. He cut the channel and turned back to his team. Set course for the Dreadfire. The human fleet jumped in deep space. Alarms rang out aboard the Dreadfire. Earth's ships had arrived. The ancient ships studied the newcomers. Their heat signatures were strange. Their energy weapons were primitive by design, but incredibly powerful. It sent one final warning. You are outmatched. Dan answered simply. Let's test that. Titan fired first. It launched a spear of condensed plasma, wrapped in a magnetic cage. The shot didn't aim at the outside hull. It pierced deep, striking the ship's core systems. For the first time, the Dreadfire screamed. It twisted, launched missiles, and sent out shockwaves of dark energy. But Earth's fleet was ready. They danced in and out, countering every move. They didn't retreat. They didn't beg. They adapted. This wasn't just a fight, it was a message. Humanity would never bow. The turning point. Battle burned across the stars. The Dreadfire fired from every part of its body. Red beams, shadow pulses, strange energy that bent light and broke shields. It twisted and moved like a living monster, fast and deadly. Ships from other species would have been crushed in seconds, but Earth's ships were different. They didn't fight like others. They didn't rely only on shields or raw firepower. They used timing, surprise, and rage. Titan moved through the storm like it belonged there. Its hull lit up with blue energy, absorbing each strike, redirecting the power into its own weapons. Smaller ships zipped around it like angry insects, distracting the Dreadfire and pulling its attention on Titan's bridge. Dan stood in front of the main screen. Status report. He said calmly, to escort ships damaged. No losses. We've opened a hole in its side armor. Lena replied. Dan nodded. Good time to send in the hammers. He turned to the weapons officer. Deploy Payload 9. Everyone on the bridge fell silent. Payload 9 wasn't a missile. It wasn't a bomb. It was something much more dangerous, a nanite swarm, designed to eat through anything mechanical, alive or not. The launch bay opened. A silver container flew into space, breaking apart and releasing billions of dark particles. They moved like smoke, but with purpose. They found the hole in the Dreadfire's side and slipped in like poison. The ancient ship shuddered. Inside, the nanites began tearing into systems the galaxy had never seen before. Black walls melted, energy veins dimmed. The ship tried to respond, but the swarm was already deep inside, spreading fast. On the bridge of the Titan, sensors lit up. It's reacting, Lena said. Parts of it are changing. Dan leaned forward. Is it adapting? Yes, but it's slow. We've hurt it badly. Dan nodded. Then now is the time. He gave the order. Full assault. Back on the Dreadfire. Something deep in its core awakened. A backup system, ancient and forbidden, activated. A pulse of black lightning spread through its body, burning away some of the nanites, but not all. It roared again. Louder this time. Its voice spread across nearby systems, breaking into every comm signal. You have touched fire. You will drown. In it, the Dreadfire launched its counterattack. From its lower hull, it opened a hidden weapon, a gravity cannon. The blast wasn't light or heat. It was force, enough to bend space. One of Earth's escort ships was caught. In seconds, it crumpled like paper, crushed and silent. Lena gasped. The Falcon is gone. Don's fists tightened. We knew we'd take losses. Stay focused. Another beam shot at Titan, but this time Titan's special defense activated a phase field, shifting the ship slightly out of normal space. The beam passed through harmlessly. Don turned to Lena. Begin phase step 2. Ready the arc spear. The arc spear was Earth's final weapon. A prototype from the secret Orion files, it was a massive energy spike formed from compressed neutronium. And charged in a magnetic vortex, it could punch through a moon and keep going. It had never been fired until now. As Titan charged the weapon, the Dreadfire began to slow. Sensors showed rising energy levels inside the enemy ship, unstable, erratic. It's trying to overload its core, Lena said. If it explodes now, Dan interrupted, it'll take half this sector with it. He turned to the crew. This ends now. Titan rotated, locked onto the center of the Dreadfire. The arc spear lit up, glowing white-blue with power alarms. Rang lights dimmed. The entire ship shook. Don raised his hand. Fire. The arc spear launched. It crossed the battlefield in a blink, smashing through space and punching straight into the Dreadfire's central node. The ship jerked, then froze. Lights flickered. Then silenced. No more beams, no more pulses. The Dreadfire was still. Lena stared at the screen. Did we kill it? Dan narrowed his eyes. No, he looked at the data. It's not dead, it's waiting. The heart of the monstrous battlefield went quiet. Titan floated in space, smoke rising from its sides. The Dreadfire didn't move. It drifted like a ghost, its weapons dark, its lights fading. For a moment, everyone believed it was over, but Dan didn't believe in moments. He stared at the energy readings. Something was wrong. The ship hadn't exploded. It hadn't shut down. It had simply stopped. Lena whispered. What is it doing? Dan replied. It's thinking. Around them, the fleet held position. Emergency repairs were underway. Earth's ships had taken damage, but they were still operational. Messages poured in from nearby systems. Praise, disbelief, fear, hope. Yet Dan didn't relax. He turned to the comms officer. Send a drone. I want a closer look inside. The officer hesitated. Sir, if it wakes, then we'll know for sure, Dan said firmly. The drone was launched, a small, stealth unit the size of a football. It zipped toward the Dreadfire in silence, passing through the breach caused by the arc spear. Its camera showed wreckage, melted steel, broken tubes, flickering power lines. But no crew, no life. It wasn't just empty, it had never been alive inside. What is this place? Lena asked. Don studied the feed. It's not a ship. It's a shell. The drone reached a central chamber. In the middle floated a large, black sphere, pulsing slowly. Strange symbols moved across its surface. As the drone approached, the sphere flickered, then sent out a short signal, not to the fleet. To Dan. Everyone on the bridge froze. A single line appeared on the main screen. You are like us, Lena gasped. What does that mean? Dan stood still. His face turned cold. It knows us. It's not just a machine. It's watching. The Dreadfire's systems came back to life. Not all at once, but piece by piece. A red glow returned to its body. Panels began to close. Energy returned to its engines. It's regenerating, Lena said. Fast. Dan gave the order. Prepare Titan for boarding. Lena's eyes widened. You're going inside? Dan nodded. If we keep fighting it from outside, it'll just rebuild. We need to cut out its core. From the inside, a boarding team was prepared. 6 soldiers in power armor, equipped with magnetic boots, rail guns, and imp grenades. Dan would lead them himself. As the shuttle approached the breach again, everyone watched in silence. The other ships held their positions. Even the Council, now watching from hidden relays, waited to see what the humans would do inside the Dreadfire. The silence was thick. The team moved through twisted halls and dark passages. The nanites had torn into parts of the ship, but something had stopped them. Strange crystal-like growths now lined the walls, pulsing with a heartbeat-like rhythm. Stay sharp, Dan said. The soldiers nodded. They reached the central core room again. The sphere floated silently, now larger, now brighter. Dan stepped forward. You've killed millions. Why? He asked aloud. A voice echoed not through sound, but directly in their minds. To erase weakness, to prepare for what comes. Don's eyes narrowed. What's coming? The ones who made me. Everyone froze. Don spoke again. You were made as a weapon, a test, a warning. I failed them once. I will not fail again. Dan clenched his fist. You failed because you underestimated life. I failed because I let it live. The sphere pulsed. The walls began to shift. Weapons slid from hidden doors. The Dreadfire wasn't just talking, it was restarting. Don made his choice. Set the charge, he ordered. One of the soldiers placed a special imp bomb near the sphere. It was built from Earth's most advanced tech, designed not to destroy, but to erase memory, thought, consciousness. Dan stepped back as the timer ticked down. Tell your creators, he said coldly. Earth is not theirs to test. The team rushed out as the timer hit 0. A silent flash lit the inside of the Dreadfire. Then stillness outside. The glow vanished. The ship powered down completely. Back on Titan, Lena watched the energy readings drop to 0. She smiled. Don's voice came over comms. It's done. We've killed the mind for the first time in weeks. True silence returned to the galaxy. But Earth wasn't done yet. Don had questions. Who built the Dreadfire? And were they still watching? The builders in the Dark Titan floated in silence inside the bridge. Dan stood with his team, studying the remains of the Dreadfire on the screen. The massive ship no longer moved. No lights pulsed. No systems responded. It was dead, or at least no longer alive in any way the galaxy understood, but something about it still felt wrong. Lena stared at the monitor showing the sphere they had destroyed. We should be celebrating, she said quietly. But it doesn't feel like victory, Dan nodded. Because this wasn't the real enemy. He looked at a new set of readings the science team had pulled from the sphere before it was wiped. Coordinates, symbols, fragments of a language never seen before. And one repeating phrase, written over and over. They are coming. 2 days later, Earth's council of scientists gathered inside Titan's data vault. Don stood at the front. We decoded part of the data before it collapsed, he began. The Dreadfire wasn't acting on its own. It was made by something older than our records. A civilization that fought a war beyond this galaxy. He pointed to the strange star map glowing on the wall. These symbols match no known species. But this? He circled a red sector. This is where it came from and where the signal is still active. Lena stepped forward. You think they're still alive? Dan replied. If they're not, something else has taken their place. The room went quiet. Then Lena asked what no one wanted to say. Do we warn the galaxy? Dan looked at the stars. We do more than that. We prepared. Earth sent a message to the Galactic Council. The threat has been neutralized. The Dreadfire is no longer active. But we found something far worse. Coordinates attached. Share at your own risk. As the message spread, reactions were mixed. Some leaders wanted to forget it all they had watched Earth defeat a monster. What else could humans possibly need? But others began to fear not just the Dreadfire but Earth itself. If Earth had ships like Titan, if Earth had weapons like the Arc Spear, what else were they hiding? On a hidden station orbiting a gas giant, a group of alien leaders gathered. In secret, he destroyed the ship from inside. He went into the heart of it. They have seen what we never dared approach. Are we sure the humans are allies? No one had answers. But one old counselor finally spoke. We called them Deathwelders. But perhaps that word doesn't mean dangerous to us. Maybe it means dangerous to everything that threatens us. Meanwhile, Earth activated Project Orion completely. Don oversaw the launch of 3 new prototype ships, each more advanced than the last. They weren't for show. They were for a war that hadn't started yet. He stood on a cliff overlooking Earth's defense hangar as the ships rose into the sky. Lena joined him. So, what happens now? She asked. Don didn't look away from the stars. We search. We follow the trail the Dreadfire left behind. We find out who made it. And what they're planning. Lena looked uncertain. And if they're more powerful than the Dreadfire? Dan turned to her. Then we do what humans always do. We adapt. We fight. And we win. A pause. Then he added. They created that ship to destroy life. But we didn't just survive it. We walked inside it and shut it down. He smiled faintly. They won't expect what comes next. Far across the stars, in a silent sector untouched by life, something stirred. A dark moon shifted. Beneath its surface, giant machines came alive. They read the signal, the Dreadfire's death call. They recognized the pattern. Human signatures, unknown weapons, a direct strike to the core. A decision was made. Earth has exceeded expected potential. Phase 2 begins. Dozens of new ships, hidden in silence for ages, began to wake. They weren't shaped like the Dreadfire. They were faster, smarter and more prepared. Above the dark moon, a single word appeared in red. Humanity. Then another. Target. Asterisk. Humanity's warning stars no longer felt safe. Across the galaxy, civilizations watched Earth closely. The humans had done the impossible. They had brought down the Dreadfire, the galaxy's most feared weapon. But Earth didn't celebrate. It didn't boast. It got ready. Onboard Titan, Dan reviewed new reports. Unexplained signals had started to appear in outer sectors. Ghost-like ships were being spotted, too fast to track, too quiet to trace. No weapons fired yet, but Earth's sensors picked up patterns that matched the Dreadfire's original code. "They're scouting us," Lena said, walking into the command room. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were tense. Dan nodded. "Just like the Dreadfire did before its first strike. They're watching now, learning our moves. We hit them hard." Dan looked at her. "Yes, and now they know we're not prey." The Galactic Council met again, this time under emergency status. Dan joined through secure channel. A dozen alien leaders appeared on the screen, each representing different species, all nervous. "You say these builders are coming?" one asked. "They've already started," Dan replied. "You didn't see the Dreadfire from the inside?" "I did. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a test unit. The real force hasn't arrived yet." "Then what do you want from us?" asked another. Dan leaned forward. "Simple, prepare your worlds, stop fighting among yourselves. And when Earth gives the call, stand with us." The aliens looked at each other. They had never trusted Earth, but now they feared something greater. "Will your kind lead this fight?" one asked. Finally, Don answered without hesitation. "We already are." Weeks passed. Earth's fleet spread outward, quietly strengthening border systems they built. New weapons, they upgraded old ones. For the first time in history, humans were not fighting for their own survival. They were preparing to protect an entire galaxy. And still, the dark signals came. They appeared on quiet moons, abandoned stations, drifting ruins, always watching, never speaking. Until one day, a transmission broke through every channel across space, loud, raw, and filled with strange machine-like tones. But everyone understood its message. "You killed one of ours. Now, we come to study the end of you." Dan stood on the bridge of Titan when the message played. He didn't flinch. He opened Earth's emergency broadcast channel. And for the first time, humanity spoke directly to the unknown threat. "This is Earth. You tested us. We passed. Come if you want. We won't run. We build. We adapt. And if needed, we burn stars to welcome to our galaxy." The message was short, direct, and terrifying in its calm. On a cold world far beyond known maps, the builders watched the response. 1,000 red lights blinked in a dark chamber. Unexpected. Growth pattern confirmed. Species, human. Verdict, unstable, violent, effective. Change priority, observe. Then remove, and with that, they launched. Hundreds of hidden ships activated. Black vessels with no windows, no signs, no life. Each one faster than the last, smarter than the Dreadfire. Designed not just to destroy but to learn while destroying, and they all turned toward Earth. Back on Titan, Dan and Lena stood at the ship's massive window, staring into the stars. "You think we're ready?" Lena asked quietly. Don took a breath. "No one ever is, but we're human. We never needed to be ready. We just need to be standing when it counts." He turned and faced the command crew. "Alert all systems. Prepare defense rings and send the message to all colonies." "What message?" Lena asked. Don's answer was simple. "They're coming. So are we." Earth's engines roared. The stars lit up with motion. Ships moved into position. Shields came online. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the builders who had crushed empires and silenced suns would face something new. Not a fleet, not a weapon, but humanity. Asterisk.